The trial of an Orrington man accused of shooting another man nearly 4 years ago in downtown Bangor continued today, with the man who was shot taking the stand.
Jordan Bishop is charged with attempted murder and multiple assault charges. Police say he shot the victim multiple times. It happened outside of a restaurant on the corner of Harlow and Franklin Streets in May of 2019.
In the state's examination today, the victim recalled the moments just before and after he was shot. He said he ran back inside the restaurant and dove down a stairwell before finding law enforcement.
In cross-examination, the victim testified he first saw Bishop when he thought Bishop may have been breaking into his truck. Upon a closer look, he said he realized Bishop was urinating on the truck. The victim said he tried to reason with Bishop before realizing how intoxicated he was.
The victim also said he and others attempted to de-escalate the situation before Bishop became combative and they had to use physical force. The victim stated he didn't call police because he felt that decision belonged to the owner of the restaurant. That trial is set to resume tomorrow.